So if we approve this, then we'll expect
A budget
a
amendment.
budget amendment to
Yes,
follow that. Okay. And my only comment is, the only problem I see with arbitrarily picking a number like $10 an hour is, are there people out there making $10.25 an hour or $10.50 an hour or $11 an hour or something that's close, that this kind of messes up the relevance between wages and positions. And so, just a personal comment for me, I would encourage our officials and our supervisors, the folks who are in charge of setting these wages, to consider that when they look at the raises. And I personally would be in support of some raise for those folks too, if that would be warranted, looking at the relative wages with each other. I would encourage them to look at that and bring it back to us as a request.
Absolutely.
And we did consider that part of our discussion. We talked about that exact same comment you had. I know Charlie was there from the highway, not from the highway department, from solid waste, and said he understood that possibly could happen, but he would just, I'm sure the employees would appreciate the additional funds. Good comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner England, did you have your hand
Well,
up?
that was actually going to be my question, was if I'm a county employee and I've been here 2 years and I'm making $10 an hour, and now this new guy that's working part-time is making $10 an hour, where's my raise? So how many employees does that affect, and does it just snowball right up the line? So what does that cost? You know, I've seen the figures for the ones that they want to move to $10 an hour, but then from there on up, what does it do, and where do those funds come from?
Those are good questions. Commissioner Ford?
My understanding is the full-time people will get better, but the 2% rate, typically full-time, it wouldn't affect the part-time, that's what it would. But that thing with full-time is 2%, or it's got 2%.
Well, you know, and then that other question, Commissioner England, that like you asked me, you know, hearing Dr. Flannery's comments, you know, sounds like they have some people that's going to fall under that $10 wage category too. And just tell you the truth, I expect us to have to address those as well. All right. Any other further discussion? Commissioner Carriger?
I would just request that, you know, when the department studied this, you know, you need to figure in addition to the increase in wage per hour, you're going to have to look at our contribution to Social Security and other items. So it's not just going to be $10, it's going to be $10 plus. So I would ask, when those numbers are compiled and presented to the commission, they are fully costed.
All right. Mayor, would you like to speak on this? Just a moment.
Just real quickly, the notice in the resolution, it does specifically say this is a recommendation from the county commission to these officials that are making the decisions to pay their folks. Majority of the employees that are at concern in this resolution were library employees, and that had already been taken into effect. There were 3 in the jail and several in solid waste. But as you know, it's up to the individual official to make the determination as whether or not to implement this and what the impact would be on the rest of the employees' wages around those. So just for what it's worth.
All right. Mayor, while you're up, I know we had Commissioner Harris, wasn't it $35,000 that we put in that line item? And I know it won't be that much to do that, to move this, or to doing what we're doing today. But that money will still remain in that line item, the balance. Is that correct? The balance of the 24 and the 35, $11,000, it'll still be in there, right? It won't be moved. or are we saying it'll take additional money, kind of like Commissioner Carragher's saying? I mean,
It'll become part of fund balance, but again, the solid waste, division is an entirely separate account, and there's no money been funded there yet, at all.
well, this money was just set aside in a separate line item that we reserved from the budget.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So,
But it's in general fund.
okay, but that money would be spread over to solid waste. We'd have to move that for sure.
We absolutely would, and since it's really a separate fund, solid waste is a separate fund, it's not just a simple transfer, we have to actually allocate money there.
So the balance, let's say we had $11,000 left over of that, and the school system come back and they had this need that Dr. Flannery was discussing with us. Can you transfer that $11,000 of balance over to the school system without?
You'd have to double it,
Okay,
or half it.
half it, okay. I was just wanting to know if that went towards maintenance of effort or not. Okay. All right, so we have $11,000 and half of that is 5.5. Okay. So we'll work on that next month. I'm sure Dr. Flannery will be at the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee this month, and we'll get to talk to him about that. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none? Did you say call for the question? Thank you, Commissioner Lott. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. 15 yes, 0 no. Resolution passes.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report, unless there's anything, any questions for me?
Oh, I thank you, Commissioner McAllister. All right. Next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Edens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee minutes on page 72 in your packet. I have one resolution to bring before you tonight. It's resolution number 190707. It's for the replacement of a boiler unit at the David Crocker High School. The unit is not to exceed $200,000. I'll bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion. Commissioner Tester.
Mr. Chairman, my employer is currently serving as the school board's architect, so I'm going to abstain from the vote on resolution 7 and 10, which is further down on our agenda tonight, and recuse myself from the discussion on those two items.
Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Wheeler, was there some budget issues with the bidding of this project that have been cleared up and ready to be voted on now?
I'm not aware of this,
Mayor, was that something that we needed to address tonight? I know the rebidding of this, since it was from capital funds. Do you remember?
Right, so these boilers that are replacing the boiler at Davy Crockett were actually engineered and are part of the ESG project that the school has been considering but has yet to make a decision as to whether they want to pursue. So ESG has taken prices from local contractors on that project as well as others, but not in the county purchasing process. So the Board of Education came to Budget Committee essentially asking for the county out of capital projects funds to pay for this equipment. And in order for us to do that, we have to put it on out for bid, under our purchasing procedures. There may, in talking to Patrick, Mr. Patrick, there may be an issue of timing on this, depending on how long the RFP process takes, but this is where we are today. So if the county is going to purchase these we have to put these out for bid.
I know there was some critical time in getting this boiler installed. By us approving it here tonight, that bidding process continues. Is that correct? I mean, that,
It would, and we believe that ESG will furnish the specifications and so forth that their engineering people did and allow the county to move forward on this, but as of this afternoon, I don't have confirmation that that's the case.
okay. So even if we approve this money, how far are we away from starting to put these units in the high school?
Guess I'd probably defer to our purchasing director as to how long the RFP process would take. To the best of my knowledge, we have yet to see the specification.
Fall will be here soon. Okay. Well, let's hope it gets in as quickly as it possibly can. Good. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make sure that was clear with everyone because that was a discussion that came up this week. All right, any further questions? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. 14 yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Resolution passes. Is that all you got to do tonight?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
that's
Reed?
all we have unless anyone has anything for me.
All right. All right, our next item is the Investment Committee. Those minutes are in your packet, July 3rd of 2019. That'd be Commissioner McAllister. Yes.
Page 75, again, Matt just reviewed our investment policy. It's on page 78. Again, just all they require our policy to be reviewed by that committee. Review it and make changes. Trustee Mr. Story said if you had any questions, please come see him anytime to resolve it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner McAllister. Next item is the Public Works Committee, Commissioner Davenport.
Yes, you'll find our minutes of July 3rd meeting on page 90. We have two resolutions tonight. First, 1907-08, resolution naming the street in the industrial park, Performance Drive. That is in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Also, on this very particular item, before we open up too much discussion, one of the things that we realized, we've done a great job picking the name and naming the road, but however, we did not add that to the county road list. I think that if we could have an amendment or just to add this to the county road list as well, if that would be proper to the county. Allison, would that be okay? Just amending it to add the name, add this road to the county road list, all of the paved road. Probably just a motion to amend. Motion to amend it. Second by Commissioner, made. Mr. Deacons, was there anything that you wanted to add? I know he kind of kept me straightened out this week some, but we did for, yeah. I'm afraid if we name it and don't go ahead and do this at the same time, we may not remember to come back and do this. So we do have a amendment to add that road to the county road list, the paved portion of it. And we do have a second to the amendment. Commissioner Wheeler seconded it. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The amendment passes. All right, we'll come back to the original resolution as presented but amended, or the original resolution as amended that we are currently considering. Commissioner Davenport, that was Resolutions 1907-08, and he had a second by Commissioner Fitzgerald. And that is as amended. Is there any further discussion or questions? Questions been called for. Madam Clerk, I see you have us on the voting screen. You go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. 15 yes, 0 no, 0 absent. Resolution passes. All right, next resolution.
Next resolution comes before you in the form of a motion is 1907-09. It's a resolution authorizing the disposition of the Highway Department surplus property on govdeals.com.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Yes, 0 no. Resolution passes.
That's all I have unless anyone has a question.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. Next item is the Rules Committee. Commissioner Tester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our Rules Committee meeting this month, we talked more about our public records policy and the issues that we have had with commissioners getting timely access to information. Very important topic, and we've talked about it for 4 months, and so we have thoroughly debated it in depth. And the committee gave me the great task of boiling down 4 months worth of
Discussion into my report tonight. They wanted me to try to explain our decision to you and help you understand what all we've talked about. So I'm going to try to do that in 10 minutes or so. I'm sorry, but I know it's late, but if you'll bear with me, this is a very important topic. Also, they wanted Ms. Wilkinson to help me, so you and also the committee members, if you would chime in if you hear anything that you disagree with or want to correct me on or whatever. And when I get finished, please add anything that you'd like to add. We first looked at some possible revisions to our public records policy to take care of this issue or to help with this issue. They've been in our packet for the last few months, so I hope you have taken the time at some point to read through those and look at those. They were recommended by Commissioner Wheeler, or proposed by Commissioner Wheeler to start with as kind of a starting point of revisions. Our committee discussed those and talked about tweaking and changing some of those revisions from his original starting point. Those revisions would have exempted commissioners from certain requirements in our policy, aggregation requirement, fees, some of those kind of things. And we also had a section that we were talking about adding, which would address the situation of a commissioner requesting information or needing a record in less than 7 days, because that's the time that's in the policy, the typical time that's in the policy for the records coordinator to respond. Ultimately, our committee decided not to recommend any revisions and to leave the policy as it currently is for now. And that's why they wanted me to do this dissertation, to explain to you our 4 months of committee time discussing this, because we ultimately decided to leave it the way it was for now. So if you'll stay with me and let me back up a little bit and provide a little bit more information about our policy and the law behind it and our 4 months of discussion, hopefully that will help shed some light on our decision. The Comptroller's Office has an Office of Open Records Counsel, and they are kind of the experts regarding Tennessee public records. And in 2017, each county was required to adopt a public records policy. The Comptroller's Office at that time created a model policy as kind of a go-by to start from for counties. We adopted our policy in 2017 based off of that model policy. There is a requirement in that policy that we have adopted. It was in the model policy, and it's also in the one that Washington County adopted, that requires us to annually review our policy and to review our compliance with the Tennessee Public Records Act, which is the law that's behind the policy. The Office of Open Records Counsel offers free support to us as a county. Legal advice, we can call them and ask them questions. Our legal folks can call them and consult with them on things. They've issued a best practices and guidelines to follow, and they also offer training that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a couple of our folks have gone to that training, right? So as a committee, we didn't want to stray too far away or too much away from the model policy that was recommended or at the beginning from the Comptroller's Office. Because if we did, then it would be more difficult to rely on the Office of Open Records Counsel for that free support. If we're using a policy that's different than their model policy. The free support that they offer could be something that would help us back up our case if we were ever sued or something like that. If we ever got in a situation, if we could say we have the model policy, we're using the model policy that they recommended to start with, we consulted with them on an issue, we took their advice and so forth, it could help support our case in a lawsuit if we got in a situation over this where we were sued. Ms. Wilkinson was involved in our committee discussions on this, and we asked her for legal advice, and she actually wrote a memo for us. It's about 4.5, 5 pages, and it's in your packet this month, so I hope everybody took the time to read that. And I want to highlight just a few quick things from that which get to the point behind all of this, and that is that the intent of the Public Records Policy and the intent of the State of Tennessee Public Records Act, the intent of all of it is for records to be open and accessible, and for them to be as open and accessible as possible. So if you would turn with me just for a minute in your packet to page 100. There's just a few sentences I would like to highlight here. On page 100, second paragraph down, fourth line down, starts with the act. I'm going to read that sentence. See if people are still flipping, but it's on page 100. Second paragraph down, fourth line down, starts with the act found in Chapter 7 of Title 10 directs courts to construe the act, quote, so as to give the fullest possible public access to public records. So that's the goal and the intent of all this. to give the fullest possible public access to public records. If you'll go on down a couple paragraphs to the paragraph that starts with consideration, I'm going to read that paragraph. Consideration of the purpose of the act helps shed light on the rationale for treating all citizens equally. The act helps to ensure government accountability and transparency by providing Tennessee citizens access to public records. Therefore, the critical issue is the balance between the efficiency of the government and the public's need to know. It may be helpful to consider the act as similar in its purpose as Tennessee's sunshine laws, in place to guard against secret government. Excuse me. When I first read this, that idea of balance between efficiency of government and public's need to know popped out at me, and I told our committee, I'm as big on efficiency as anybody, but we are elected to represent the citizenry. That's our job. And the work that we do as a county government is their business. It's their work. And so my humble opinion is, if it comes down to that, the public's need to know would trump efficiency. That's just my personal thought on that. Very last paragraph on page 5 of her memo, starting at the third line down, working from a presumption that all government records are open, it is not necessarily logical to conclude that all records require a request. But the process is there for the protection of confidentiality and privilege, and to ensure that the citizens of Tennessee have the greatest access to the work of their government offices, office holders, and employees. So the reason I want to read those 3 points is to point that critical idea out about open government, and that's the whole point behind all this. And it's good for us to get to understand our policy better. It's good for us to get to understand the Tennessee Public Records Act better. Also, the idea of having a vigilance and relative to this concept of open and timely records is important for all citizens to think about, not just commissioners, but all citizens. We need to be vigilant about this. So going forward, and I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly, so if I'm losing you, I'm sorry, but hang with me. Going forward, dealing with our problem that we identified of commissioners having trouble getting information. A major concern, and I want you all to know this and hear this, a major concern of our committee was that the public records policy should never be used as a political weapon. I think it's fair to say that our committee felt quite strongly about this, and Ms. Wilkinson also agreed with us on that point, that it should never be used as a political weapon. We also talked about the idea of it being impossible to legislate morality. You know, we can have all sorts of rules, and we can have rules on top of rules, but the rules are only as good as the people who are implementing them and following them. And there's a whole lot of people who have their hands involved in public records, keeping public records, giving access to public records, coordinating that, providing that, so forth. The Tennessee Public Records Act, Ms. Wilkinson pointed this out to us, the Tennessee Public Records Act already has consequences and enforcement provisions included in it for open records violations. So she also pointed out to us that there's actually an obligation to report fraud, waste, and abuse to the Comptroller's office. So, bottom line here, if any citizen, not just commissioners, any citizen has any issues ever going forward, we need to shine a light on it. We need to be vigilant. If that means talking about it at a public meeting, we need to do it. Some things that our committee talked about that we recommend is take it to the legal department and bring it to the rules committee. Bring it to the rules committee, bring it to me, bring it to any of our members. So we need to be vigilant about it. We need to shine a light on it if you have a problem. And as I said earlier, the intent of all this is to make the records as open and accessible as possible, not the opposite. Not to withhold them, not to stall them, not to stonewall. So if anyone feels like that's what's happening to you, then shine a light on it. That's the end of my prepared remarks. If anybody would like to add or ask questions, please do so at this time.
I got a question.
Sure.
You knew it had to be one.
Sure, shoot.
As far as the Public Records Information Act, do we still have to go through, legal? If we need some public information, anybody in the world out there can get it, it's on the internet, and it's fairly available. Is that, you saying that it's not, that we have to do that?
Well, what we talked about, and again, please chime in here, committee members and Ms. Wilkinson, but what we talked about is that there are a lot of records that are accessible without having to go through that process.
Okay.
So the short answer to your question is
I
no.
just want to know if we would,
You do not have to fill out a records request for everything.
you did.
May I add to that? Because Commissioner Ford, and I'd like to thank some of you for inspiring such an investigation. I was able to visit with all of the county office holders and departments about the types of records that they make available in the ordinary course of business. I hope you heard the beginning of that because I just heard the volume come on. So the committee indulged me going through all of that. There was a particular commissioner, when I gave the annual report, who asked whether or not he was breaking the law to have a property card in his hand. And I'm very happy to report that indeed not. And that led me on an examination of why not. Why would that document be any different? So circuit clerks, for example, offer records in the ordinary course. That's what our clerk's office does. Divorce decrees, same with in the chancellor's office, in the clerk and master, there's documents that are available at a charge. Property cards are available in the assessor's office. There are a lot of documents that are available through the county that do not require public record requests. So while all documents are public records, not all public records require public record requests, if that makes any sense to you. Just that there's a very fine point on that. So I really appreciate the inspiration to dig into that because there was a lot of work and a lot of hard questions that the committee prompted. And something else that came out that's just for a practical consideration for your point of view, so that you know, sometimes citizens make public record requests and they ask for something that doesn't exist. And then they might say, well, I didn't get that. That's because that's not a record that the county has. It might be a record, 3 steps removed or something like that. Or it might be something that is not maintained in the way that that person is requesting it. And, and I think it's really important to look at that, especially if you're commissioners, that on the practical side of things, one of the things we talked about in the Rules Committee is that you can always use your committee process to ask for information to be gathered, and that is not a records request. So that was something that I think came up in early days, if you recall, Chairman Tester, when we were talking about how information could be vetted, because I know that ultimately the issue of commissioners getting timely access to records, is important for many of you considering votes and that sort of thing. And you can do that through the committee process. This particular policy and the act that surrounds it is for the protection of all citizens. So that may be why it doesn't always have a real good fit for what you're trying to do as a legislator. So if you have any other questions or if the memo prompts questions, I just hope you'll reach out and let me know so I can answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. Any questions for Commissioner Tester? Commissioner Tester, thank you. I know you all have worked on that very hard. And there's been many questions.
Thank you, Chairman. That's all I have.
All right. Next item is the Budget Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have minutes from our June 20th meeting found at page 102. and 103, and then minutes from our July 10th meeting at page 105. We have one resolution for your consideration tonight. This originated with the CIA committee, came back to us after the commission meeting last month and the veto of the resolution passed last month. This is Resolution 19-07110, resolution approving the concept plan and a plan of work for the new Boones Creek Athletic Fields. That comes in the form of a motion from the committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler. Have a second. Commissioner Carriger to approve the resolution. Discussion. Commissioner Harris?
I know it's been a long meeting, but I was trying to look back on some of my notes from the beginning of the meeting, and something that really stuck out in my mind tonight was what this young man, Josh Ledford, that came in and spoke and talked about priorities, you know, when we've got the letter that I think all of us have probably seen about this drinking water at the cafeteria.
I was getting ready to ask you about that,
and,
Commissioner Harris. I hadn't seen it.
I got it on my phone. I can send you a copy of it. Yeah,
Okay.
somebody sent it to me. But I think it's a matter of looking at priorities. I know we've got to do something out there, but I just can't see how we can vote to spend that kind of money right now with so many other things in the hang. I know you said we had a joint meeting coming up with the school board, and I know several of them are here tonight, and it's I know this has been a horse that we've beat on for a long time, but that's one concern. After he spoke, that really touched me, what he said, especially when he talked about his kids. They deserve better, and Jonesboro kids deserve better when you see what they've got as well. But I guess my two questions I've got on this is, I don't remember out of our committee ever saying 800,000. I don't know, somebody may correct me if I'm wrong, but I went back and looked at my notes, and I never remember setting an $800,000 figure. And now that the mayor vetoed what he pushed to be approved last month, since then, you know, there's been a lot of movement out there. There's been a lot of topsoil moved from that site. That's a question I had for somebody maybe could answer, is why are we out there moving topsoil from county property, taking it to private property, when we're going to need that topsoil if we do a ball field or if we do a playground. And I sent this question to the mayor and sent it to Allison, and I sent a copy of the TCA code. From what I understand, under TCA code 514-108, disposition of any county property must be disposed of by the purchasing agent, either by sale at auction or by competitive bid. So, you know, topsoil is a valuable commodity, and it belongs to the county. I don't know how we're allowing that to be hauled off to private locations. And even if we were allowed or we're selling it, you know, we have a need for it. So why are we? It don't make sense. What's happened out there since our last meeting, to me, just doesn't make sense, and it's sad for the taxpayers, I think, that what's going on. But can somebody answer why we're doing that?
Mayor?
Well, just for clarification, the resolution last month was not something that the mayor pushed. It was a resolution that came up through committee. I believe it was the committee you serve on, Commissioner, and the vote was to move forward with a project that had been identified as one to put sports facilities around the school site, and partially for the use of that school age group of children. It's my office responsibility to manage these ongoing projects. The school construction piece is managed by the school administration, and the county site's managed by my office in the county. And both are coordinated with the contractor, Burwell Construction, through our owner's representative, Burleson Construction. And I've taken the calls, and probably some of you all have, about excess material on site. And we don't want to leave tonight with any misconception of what that material, how that material is to be disposed of, and how it's handled in the course of the construction project. And so as this project winds up, you know, if this resolution 1709-10 that's under consideration right now, if it's approved, the topsoil and the material that's out there in place will be utilized in the sports facility site. If not, the material will be removed in accordance with the existing contract. And that existing contract called for material, excess material, to be taken off the site by the contractor. Tonight we have Mr. Burleson here with us, as well as our purchasing agent, Willie Strudeberg, and they're here to answer any questions and to clarify exactly what I've just said as to who's responsible for the material. Mr. Burleson?
Let me give a little history on this thing. When this project was bid, there's a qualification-based selection, and the construction manager went through a process. The construction manager, general contractor, was selected, which was Burwell Construction. Burwell, then with us, Lisa and Luskin Street, worked on the budgets, worked on everything, put the bid packages together, and everything on that project was bid. It's bid by the plans and the specifications. There is a contract with Burwell to build a school in accordance with the plans and specifications. The plans are attachment A to the contract. The specifications are attachment B to the contract. Okay? Something's a little different than this one than in most contracts is the site work, and there were 5 bids on the site work, 5 competitive bids. It was decided after we got started down this road that the county was going to pay half part of it and the school board was going to have part of it. So we went through and came up with the percentages of the road, the grading, the retaining wall, the lighting, and the seating, and the drainage that made up the county's part. And in round figures, it was $25 million and $3 million. Okay, county's 3, school board's 25. So then there was Burwell subcontracts were written. There were 2 contracts written to Burwell, and then in turn, Burwell subcontracts were written. The grading contractor, example, had 2. Summers Taylor's a grading contractor. They had 2. Summers Taylor does not have a contract with the county. Summers Taylor does not have a contract with the school board. Burwell's the only one that has those contracts. Summers Taylor's a subcontractor. Okay. Now, in the specifications, under existing conditions, excavation, backfill, and compaction, there's section 02220. Paragraph 3 says excess fill, excess materials. All excess materials will be removed from the site. That's pretty much a standard statement. It's a standard set of specifications, and that's so the site will balance. So at the end of the day, you don't go out there and get a big pile of dirt left over. Okay? Now, how do we know that that site is graded the way it's supposed to be? That whole site was run off a GPS system. We can go anywhere on that site, put the rod down, and say what the plans say it's supposed to be and what it actually is. And that site has been checked, it's been crisscrossed. It's in good shape, with the exception of where those 2 piles of dirt are. Okay. Now, the dirt under the existing contract, the contract incorporates the plans and the specifications. The contract is what we do. The plans and specifications are how we do it. says that all the dirt will be removed. Now, as we got toward the end of the job, there was some excess dirt. The excess dirt and the rough grading on those ball fields allowed for some of this excess dirt to be used, but that was not part of the contracts that were out there. Had the dirt been trucked off the site in accordance with the contract, it would have had to be brought back on the site at a later date, that dirt or some other date, okay? In conversation with Summers Taylor, and I instigated this conversation through Burwell to see, while they were on site, would they move the dirt, spread the dirt under the existing unit prices that they had, which they agreed to. They also agreed to leave and use the topsoil. In working with, and the reason we're going to do this is a change order to Burwell's contract using existing prices is because we could use it under the same, all the same specifications that we just referred to. So the change order to the contract was nothing out of the ordinary. And use that dirt and not have to either leave that dirt piled up or that dirt be hauled off and then at a later date, somebody paid to haul that dirt back in there. So that's how it got to where it got to. Since the meeting last time, they are still spreading dirt on the site. There has been 6 or 7 truckloads of dirt leave, but that dirt belongs to the contractor. It says so. Right there, just what I told you. And it's in the specifications, which is part of the contract. And that's about the best I can explain.
So we would have the ability to, if this resolution passed and the ball field's built and that material can be used on site, would we have the ability at this point to go back and modify the contract to allow that dirt to stay and be used?
Summers Taylor has agreed to leave the dirt, the topsoil. The simplest way to do that, at the end of the job, this is guaranteed maximum price contract. At the end of the job, there will be a change order that basically gets it to zero balance, okay? Part of that change order is just a simple statement that says the contract is modified to leave the 2 piles of dirt. And we will measure those piles of dirt so we know how much yardage of dirt there is. One is a pile of clay that can be used on the track and fill in the end of the baseball, the soccer football field. The other is topsoil that can be spread on the existing fields to bring them up, and the rest of it spread on the area where the other clay goes. That can be put into the contract at that time. Okay.
I know it's hard to say where the dirt came from. I mean, surely some of this topsoil came off the sports complex area, which belongs to the county.
Correct.
Was there ever a contract on that? I mean, I feel like that.
There's 2 contracts. It was bid, the grading was all bid as one, so we didn't have 2 contractors up there trying to do the same thing. It was bid as one, and the percentages that I said earlier, the 6 items, was Summers Taylor's number, whatever it was, with those percentages were applied to their number. They were given 2 subcontracts from Burwell that totaled what their total number was. But so much was billed to the county and so much was billed to the school board. But the contract references the plans and specifications, identical. Attachment A is the plans, attachment B is the specifications, and it reads the same. Same set of plans, same set of specifications. Right. No, you're not. They're out there on a contract. No, whatever it, if they had to haul dirt in, it would have been on there. No matter what they do, that's the way it would be. There were allowances out there for rock, there were allowances out there for unsuitable soil, but the soils had to balance.
read, after, anything that belongs to the county has to be sold at an auction. And, this does have a value. Where do we come in to the point that we can sign a contract that violates state law and saying that we can give away items of value? We just voted tonight to sell a tractor. It's probably going to sell for $5,000, $6,000, I don't know, more. We're talking about $100,000 of dirt more.
Well, flip it around. What if it's been that much short? Would y'all wanted to pay them extra to help carry it in there? I don't think so. That's the way the contract is. That's the way it is. And you probably go back and look at it, and that same language has probably been in every school project, every major project that's been done in this county, or in the city, or anywhere around here, because it's pretty much standard language.
I don't know who the rest is. I don't know you very well, but if I was over that project and I knew we were looking at something, whether it be a sports complex, whether they're not all, there's no way that I would stand by representing the county, this is a truckload of our topsoil, leave that side, but I'll stop the deputy and say, hey, you may need this. That's the best thing to do, is keep it there.
And in defense of that, we first started trying to do this 7 months ago. Okay? 7 months. Because we saw it was an issue. We can't stop this. The school had to be open. That dirt had to be moved. Stuff had to go on with it. Okay? I mean, it's not like we didn't try, but it kind of fell on deaf ears.
Slightly unrelated question. Is it okay?
Chairman, if I speak.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry, I just started going. So I took a walk out there last week, and those 2 piles of dirt are huge. And my question is, when we've talked about moving forward with creating fields that could eventually be used for competitive purposes, the discussion has been that they need to be graded to a very specific type of grade. And so is that dirt sitting there because that would be the dirt that would be used to bring those fields to that kind of specification? Is that what that dirt is sitting there for? Yes. And if we decided we don't want to invest a single another dollar, then all that dirt needs to go, because that land is really unusable for the school if the dirt stays, correct?
Correct.
And that was my perception, because those mountains of dirt are right in the middle of what could be like a football field or a large play area, as well as the softball area. And I just thought to myself, where will these kids play, like, when school opens? Because they can only play, like, in the perimeter, like the near perimeter of the school, like adjacent schoolyards right now. There's no large area for them. So my final question is, if we voted not to spend this money, and they took the mountains of dirt away, obviously we keep it, warehouse it somewhere. I couldn't tell from where I was standing because it's quite weedy, but if you mow that down, is it even? And can kids like run around on that big play, like football field, track area?
It's graded smooth with its slopes.
Okay, it has like a 2-foot slope, right? Like, it's not super noticeable, but you could have morning mile out there, or the kids could play games and stuff. You're talking about a lot of kids, and the schoolyard areas that are right adjacent to the school are, I just think, very small right now. So if we didn't do this kind of extra step to prepare the fields for that future use, we definitely need to get those piles of dirt out, correct? It's just not usable without moving them.
They can go away.
Yeah, okay.
But then they're gone.
Commissioner
Right.
Carriger?
Mr. Chairman, I want to remind the commission that the CIA committee took this project on, and we were following the wishes of the school board. I think at their November meeting in 2018, they outlined what they wanted at this school, and our committee took their wishes into account. We've had people from the school through the whole process of discussions on this. And, what we're trying to deliver is and we set our priorities. One, it's, we're going to be within the budget. Two, we're going to take care of the children. And three, we're going to take care of the taxpayers. So what we've tried to do as a committee is to follow directions from our school board and to deal within the contracts that were executed several years ago.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ford?
I'd like to say, this concept plan is different than what the school board asked for. You're talking, you just sat there and said, Mr. Carrier, that's what the school board asked for. Right here's what they asked for, they didn't ask for this.
And they have participated
About
in
4
every
fields
meeting
opposed to
we've had
2.
since November. They've been there. Dr. Flannery's been there, the school people have been there, they've been there.
And
to listen.
another thing I can't understand is how can we sit here and spend $800,000 for this project tonight after seeing those postings that we had here earlier tonight with the atrocious condition that stuff is in. What about the kids in Jonesboro? I mean, I'm not against building, finish this project out here, but we got to take care of these kids. Safety first, and clean drinking water is a must. I don't know what we got to do, but we got to do something.
You saying we can't do both?
I'm saying we can't do it. How long has this been like this? So can somebody tell me this? The first I heard about it was tonight. When we can't put the necessities out there for them, then I don't think we're at the point to build four fields. I just don't feel like we're there.
Commissioner Edens?
To a great aspect, I agree with you, Commissioner Ford. And I've even said that here before. This concept that we have here of 4 ball fields, a football field and everything, I mean, there's a reason the ball field land is county land and not school land. The original plan was it would be county land so the county could make competitive ball fields on it so that we could make a ton of money like Wing Deer does and everybody else does by having weekend tournaments for children and adults. It started out to me about money. That's why it's not school property, in my opinion. It's county property. So we can make money. What are we going to do with that money? I dare say we won't help Jonesboro with it because we haven't yet. He's right about the plan here. It says they want a football field, they want a baseball field, and they want a softball field. Well, we got other county schools, not just Jonesboro, but you got South Central School. They bus their kids to a Ruatan building to play baseball and softball for their students. Jonesboro, among all their other problems, they bus their children to Persimmon Ridge to play baseball and softball and soccer. And they share that field during baseball season with the Little League. They have to work their practices and their games around a whole entire age group of Little Leaguers because they have to share the field. So they don't just have the drinking water problems and the asbestos problems and the mold problems and the roaches that are crawling out of the wall problems. Because I've seen them. They've got other issues with their ball fields and their ball teams because they don't have ball fields. And we got a brand new school sitting out there at Boones Creek. I love athletics. My children play them, my grandchildren play them, I can play them on the finest field they can play them on. But I'm telling you, we're going to have to back up. $800,000, $100,000 for a plan, for a concept, or even if it's to complete a project. We're completing the wrong project. We've been at it for 3-4 years, I guess. And it seemed good at the time. And it's not that I don't want Boones Creek to have it. I want all the schools to have it. That gentleman that spoke tonight about his kid, I watched him grow up and play ball with my kids. Well, what I'm telling you is, over 2 or 3 years of vetting this, sometimes priorities have to change. And if we've got any money at all to spend on a school system, because every school that we have is in the same system, And we better go put some ceilings, get some asbestos out of Jonesboro. If that's all we can do, that's all we do. I think the last figure I heard from Tony Street was $300,000. This is $800,000. He said it'd take $300,000 to remove the asbestos from that school. 300,000 is what he said at the last school board meeting that I heard him speak on it. I'd say with $800,000, we could take care of a lot of needs at Jonesboro. I'd say we could put walls in the elementary school. I'd say we could take the asbestos out of the roofs, the ceilings. I'd say we could do something to make it ADA accessible. I'd say we might give them a ball field, because they certainly don't have one. What if we put a baseball field at Boones Creek and a baseball field at Jonesboro, and maybe one down South Central, and then all our schools have one? At least they all have something.
All right, Commissioner Ford, does anybody else want to speak besides me? Because I got to come off this bench and speak tonight. So, who's next? Y'all are going to have to wait on me. Commissioner Wheeler?
While I've got control of this, anybody want to speak before the chairman does? Mr. Chairman, you're recognized.
I just want to say that you can't oftentimes give your opinion as chairman. If Commissioner Tester was here, he would agree with me. You know, he went through a whole lot about schools. And I remember when we started out with the Jonesboro School Project, one of the things that we did was, it was a remodel for Jonesboro School. And even up until, I don't know, the last few months, the last proposal that we had, Mr. Meredith told us that we had $10,000 to spend. Or $10 million, I'm sorry, to spend there at Jonesboro. Well, let's get the plan together and bring it to this county commission, and let's put it to Jonesboro, if that's what we want to do. I'm for it, 100%. So, you know, let's put the plan together. We're just waiting for it. If it requires a tax increase to build a new school, this commission needs to consider that. It'll take the support of the parents to do that. It'll take support of the teachers, Dr. Flannery. It'll take so much support. But I think it's very important. So, you know, let's bring the plan. There was a plan for it. As far as the kids at Boones Creek, they're always going to have a ball field because it's still at Boones Creek Middle School. They still have one. And they'll have it till they have a ball field, I guess. Because I wouldn't want to take no kid's ball field away from them, not if they don't have one. Like Danny said, there's schools in this county that don't have a ball field. I agree with him. They need one. So, Boones Creek has a ball field. I know the parents out there will want to keep their ball field until they get some kind of a ball field to play on. That's only fair. So, I appreciate y'all's comments tonight, and I appreciate y'all listening to me. But I just wanted you to know what my opinion was. Bring the project. It's $10 million. That was the last number, right, Mayor? 10 million. So, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Malone?
Well, thank you for your comments, and I just want to echo them in a sense in that I feel for the parents that spoke earlier, and I desperately want something positive for the Jonesboro School. But to Chairman Matherly's point, since I've been a commissioner, the only single item I've had an opportunity to vote on was Scheme 6. That was we either voted up or down. Scheme 6 was it. And at a workshop, what Chairman Matherly is referencing is the number was provided to the school board that says, here's how much we can spend without raising taxes. And so it's not as if we've not responded to requests from the school board. The one we got for Scheme 6, we did respond. I don't see these as being mutually exclusive projects. The fields, this money has already been budgeted for in the capital projects account, and separately, we've been told that there is that money available, the money, the 10 million reference that's available for a project at the Jonesboro School. I'm in favor of both, but we only have one proposal in front of us tonight, and that's relative to the ball fields at the school system. Now, if I may, I do have a question of Mr. Shrewsbury, in the sense that part of this reason that this comes back to us tonight is the bid process. There's dirt on site. There's equipment on site. When we bid this again, is there a chance that it would still come back to us? I mean, is there a chance that the most economical solution is a change order under the existing contract? Or will this be a totally separate new contract by potentially an even new provider?
It would be a totally separate new contract. That's not to say that it couldn't be the same provider, but the way that I saw it was that it wasn't a change order to the existing contract. What the commission took into effect, I felt was actually on your part, you were looking at the ways to save money.
Right. And
so, given what you knew about the situation, the decision you made, I fully respect. But I just felt like under the condition of the current contract, that it wasn't, the ball fields and the grading for the ball fields was taken out at some time. And so it made it a total separate project to me, rather than it being a change order. It was to bring it to elevation and not to complete it, not to finish the grading and seeding and all. So to me, I saw that as a new project under a new contract. And like I said, I would feel certain that it will probably cost more, just for the fact that you're going to have to demobilize and then mobilize again for equipment. Same thing to be said for the dirt situation. You know, if that was under the current contract, and it could have been removed. But like I said again, I just felt like under the purchasing law that was the correct way to go. Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Edens?
I don't know who to ask this question to, but I'd like somebody to tell me why the concept plan that we're looking at to approve or to deny is asking for more than what the school board presented to us.
Commissioner Carrigan?
We started the process, I believe,
In October of 18, and we've gotten input from Dr. Flannery and his people and citizens, people from Boones Creek area, and we took this And we listened to what people had to say, and that's how we arrived at what we got, what's being presented tonight.
But shouldn't it be the school board's decision?
It's a county property.
It's county property.
So the school board shouldn't have any input?
Well, they did. We had open meetings. I guess I'm kind of puzzled, Mr. Chairman. We've got minutes to our CIA meetings, and, you know, everyone's invited to read them, but we ask a lot of input from a lot of different people, people in the community, people at schools, and we got a lot of input from people, and what we tried to deliver on county property is something that benefits the children, something that's within budget, and something that benefits the taxpayer, because I think that there's no better investment that we can make as a government than education. And I look at education as an investment. Phil Carragher's here because years ago people invested in my education. And I think we as a governmental body, there is nothing higher than making sure our children receive the best education they can.
Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, just a comment about the $800,000. So moving this plan forward and including the putting it out to bid for the work that's included in the $800,000 does not get the students really anywhere close to that plan. And in our discussions, we've talked about, in the CIA committee, we've talked about a phased-in plan, and this phase just gets a level set of fields on both sides with drainage, and they've already stubbed in, I learned that term working on the committee, like wiring and stuff for future, if we want to do restrooms or some things like that. And it sets us up so that our options stay open for the future development of what you see in that picture, which could, and I've asked this question on the CIA committee, I think it speaks to your points, could end up being somewhat different from that. There's still flexibility even after we do what we've started to do. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. We're giving the kids some level playing fields right now. They have huge piles of dirt, and we're setting ourselves up for this future plan, but we still have options. And when the kids and teachers are on site, I think we'll want to hear what they think too about exactly how it should look. And we'll still have a couple $1 million reserved to finish this or not. If other capital expenses or budgetary issues become important. But I really commend Commissioner Carragher in getting this project moved on. I think government needs to finish things, and he really impressed me with that. And this is one we can get done and get set up at least, so that in the future, and doesn't have to be this year, it could be next year, 2 years from now, we kind of put the finishing touches on and make it the fields that you see in the picture, or something a little different from that.
Commissioner Ford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The $800,000, how, for sure, is this already been bid out? It's not. Well, how you know it's gonna be $800,000, number one question I wanna ask? Is it just a number you threw it up there, you feel like that's what it was, or would be, or somewhere in the ballpark, or what?
Amount not to exceed.
Okay. All right. No, okay. Yeah.
Notice the number that's not thrown out there. $227,000 of that is for the design for the entire complex, so that it can be bid, the whole thing bid. The rest of it is numbers that we just did an estimate. Took the storm drainage, the amount of dirt that had to be moved, the seeding, and some infrastructure. And then there's a contingency on top of that. And that's where, and the number was rounded up. The number was less than that, but it was rounded up to $800,000.
Okay. Okay. And number,
Mr. Burleson, before you leave, I do have a question. After we spend this $800,000, I don't know where we'll be at the exact budget number. I mean, and I know our plan is to build some athletic fields. You know, I've heard all kinds of different plans, 4 ball fields, and, I mean, don't you think eventually and this, I know you've got a lot of experience in this, but the amount of money you have is really going to limit to what you build anyway, isn't that right? I mean, we're doing this groundwork and stubbing all this stuff out for future development, not saying that we're going to build this complex right away. Isn't that kind of where we are?
That was the reason for designing, trying to design the entire thing so you could build it in phases.
Right.
But what you don't want to do is build it, get started on it, and then get halfway through it and change your mind.
Right.
Not that that would ever happen, but then you go tear back up what you spent all the money on.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Did I interrupt you?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Ford?
You answered my question. That's why I want to know about the number, the 800,000, and I appreciate it, because I had no idea knowing. But y'all talked about tonight, this is phase 1. How many phases are they suggested they're going to be in this? Do you know yet? Don't know yet.
How much money we'll spend?
$3.2 million is what's allocated.
Well, the way that it would work now, okay, all right, let's just take it from this step forward. Tom Williams is designing the thing. If he's turned loose to design it, he designs it, he puts it out for bid, okay? You can bid the entire complex, or you can bid it, break it into phases or parts, so that you can build all you want to or as little as you want to.
And my other question is, or one of the question is, I appreciate you answering mine, but my other thing I wanted to say is I want to hear the lady school board member right there speak. And I'll yield my floor to her if it's okay, on this $800,000, because this is totally different than what this is. I want to hear her address that.
Well, Commissioner Wheeler has been waiting to speak as well. He's not got to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions I've got. First one to Mr. Willie. This contract, if I understand correctly, was worded a little different or a little unusual as far as the idea of a change order. This was not necessarily typical language that you would have seen. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I think the language, it wasn't that the language was really that strange. It's just that what I incorporated it as being a change order as far as part of that contract. I didn't consider that was within the scope of what the original contract was to be considered a change order for.
Okay.
That the completion of the field was totally separate from what the original contract was. But if it would have been left in as an alternate, then I would have absolutely said, to have an alternate to complete the grading and the seeding for the ball fields. I wouldn't have had an issue with them coming back at a later time and saying we want to go with addendum number 1 now or alternate number 1 now that completes the ball fields. But it was taken out at some time, and so that's why I had issue with it being completed as a change order.
Thank you. I want to say something about the comments about the school in Jonesboro and the plan. And I want to say that I think that our school board is under a lot of pressure with this. And the one thing that I would hope they do, and I think they are doing it, is to take the time to do this right. I, for one, was not real thrilled with the idea of Scheme 6. And I'm not real thrilled with the idea of the $10 million project. And I hope that they will continue what I think they're doing right now, which is to take the time to step back and think creatively and find the right solution. Because if we're going to do this, and if we're going to spend only $10 million, we better spend it the right way, because we're probably not coming back and doing this again. So I understand that we've got some immediate needs and we need to figure out how to deal with those. But I don't think the school board should rush this decision on the long term, what's going to happen. So they've got to figure out what to do in the meantime, and I realize that's not easy. But I think they are doing it, and I think people need to realize that. And I don't want it left that we're saying, you know, y'all aren't doing anything, because that's not true, and I don't think anybody's meant to represent that, but I want to make it clear that that's not being said. The second thing is, you know, it looks to me like we're talking about two possibilities here of either moving forward with this resolution or letting them move the dirt off and leaving things like they are. And I don't hear anybody recommending anything in between, but, you know, if we vote against this resolution tonight and leave things the way they are, then under that contract, it's my understanding dirt is going to be removed, and we may just sit for a long period of time, and sometime we may be having to haul dirt back in. But if we allow that to happen, I went out there and looked around a little bit this weekend, and I think we're going to leave it pretty rough. There may only be a 2-foot slope, but I think that one thing this plan does is get us to a point where that space out there could be utilized without going forward with the plans to build, certainly not the whole project. And, you know, I think we need to work with the school system about what we do need to build and when we need to build it. But as the chairman pointed out, we've got some other fields we can utilize until we can do that. But if we're going to have to spend some money to utilize that dirt, if we decide we're going that route, then I think it makes sense to get the infrastructure in place to be able to sit it and leave it and wait on some of the other we're talking about doing. But we've got to do something now. But it could be, if we want to vote this down tonight, we just let them take the dirt and we leave it. But if you go out there and walk across that thing, it's not like it's a 2-foot nice even slope. I don't think we want kids out there running on that. I believe we'll have a lot of sprained ankles, and our school insurance policy or their health insurance policy may go up a little bit. But we need to figure out what are we going to do if we don't do this? Are we going to let them just haul the dirt off and leave it like that? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Dillinger, did you want to come up and speak? Any objection to Ms. Dillinger speaking?
I understand, Mr. Carriger, your need thinking that 4 ball fields are going to benefit the students at Boones Creek, and I beg to differ. I don't think that the majority of students at that school are going to benefit from ball fields. I think when we get into the tournament business, if you'll find out from our others, Ridgeview and Grandview, very few of our students do. What they need is a playground. These students are starting out the school year, and as a retired teacher, they're starting out the school year and don't even have a place to play. And that's very difficult. As far as ball fields, we recommended 1 softball, 1 baseball. I think that would be fine. Later on, this is what the board voted. I'm not speaking just for myself. This is what we voted on November 26th. So, like I said, I think if we're going to do something for the kids, if that's going to be our catchword, a playground would be much more beneficial. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillinger.
And just for clarification, this is not building any playgrounds or anything right now, we're just leveling it out right now, just making sure there's.
Right.
Is there not already playgrounds in the plan though that will be constructed with the building?
No. But I think as far as some of the playgrounds go, I think some of the parents will have, the PTA is working on some of those now, I think. Commissioner Ford, did you have your hand up again? right, we have a motion and a second. We were having discussion of the resolution. The question has been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. We're already there. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 9 yes, 5 no, 1 absent. Resolution passes. All right, anything else, Commissioner? Commissioner Wheeler, anything else on the Budget Committee report?
That's all of our report. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Tester, you just thought she was leaving, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, the next, we have no old business to report. We do have Resolution 190711, is a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Motion made by Commissioner Ford, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question?
Wow, that was gutsy.
Perfect. Madam Clerk, go ahead and switch us to the voting screen. You've already got that done. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. If you'll announce the vote, 15 yes, 0 no, resolution passes. All right, remember we have no new business to report. We do have the cutoff date and time for next month's County Commission agenda is Thursday, August the 15th, also at 12 noon. Also, that's the same day that we're trying to organize a meeting of the school board and county commission, and we'll get you that location on the 15th at 5. So I remind you of that. And do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Commissioner Ford, seconded by Commissioner Light to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?